love putting the work in, seeing, creating things.
It's now our 20th year.
How invested the students are, isn't it? You know, they're so passionate.
Welcome to the Gibraltar Business Podcast, which this week is coming from Bayside School. Before we start, I just want to thank our sponsors, the Gibraltar International Bank, who share our passion for business. So James and I are here from Bayside. Thanks for joining me and co-hosting with me, right?
It's a pleasure to be here today. After being behind the camera for so many episodes alongside my team, it's really exciting to be in front of it with you.
Brilliant, brilliant. And those of you who know the show, this is will know this already, but this season we've been working with a company called Barton Solutions, and James Barton is one of the people behind Barton Solutions. So I've managed to convince you to join me on this side of the camera this time. And I've done that because you're a young entrepreneur, and one of the subjects that we're going to be covering in this topic is very much around youth entrepreneurship, trying to get more young people interested in business. And I thought you walk the walk and talk the talk, so you'd be a great guest.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I've lived the experience you're talking about, obviously with a really good team behind me. And it can be difficult because there's no prescribed path to follow when you're doing this. You sort of forge your own path depending on what you're doing. And therefore, yeah, I think it would be very relevant, especially nowadays where there's a lot of people who are very interested in going into their own business. I think because of social media, it seems much more accessible now, also because of the internet and technology. One person can start a business that would take 10 people historically. So it's definitely a relevant topic, and I hope I'm well qualified to give some advice and some information on the landscape in Gibraltar regarding this.
I definitely think so, and just for context also is that we are at Bayside, not because we've gone back to school or anything, but Young Enterprise Gibraltar are running this year's cohort of students who I think they've all come out with their own business, so we're going to be talking to some of them a bit later on in the show. Today's event will see some of the teams compete and pitch their ideas to Dragons, or Dragon Styles, if you know the BBC show Dragon's Den. And we're going to be talking to some of them as well. So I'm sure your input and your experience will be super valuable to them. But tell me first about Barton Solutions. Like, what do you do? I keep seeing you everywhere on social media. Tell me.
For sure. So Barton Solutions is actually the core. We have a few different business ventures moving, but currently Barton Solutions is what actually is the base of all of our operations. In a nutshell, we're a marketing company with a strong focus on 3D and other new kinds of media. So our core involves mainly 3D work centered around architectural visualization. Obviously in Gibraltar, there's buildings going up non-stop. We identified a gap in the market, which is helping developers market their properties online by using our in-house 3D designer, Jared Vassallo, who is extremely talented with this 3D skills, and using his skills to actually create modern visualization images, videos, interactive websites where you can explore properties as if you're there in person before they're built. I
saw that. Sorry to cut across, and one of the things that you've just launched, forgive me if I'm wrong, is a 3D model of Gibraltar?
Well, yeah, one of our key assets, which Jared has actually built using a range of different sources, but it is our own.
Jared.
Yeah, Jared's extremely talented.
He's behind the camera.
He is. And this is Jared's proprietary work. He's used some open source information such as Google Earth, but he has created this, and it's essentially a 3D model of Gibraltar, which we can use in our projects to then superimpose new projects in. So, for example, we're working with the cable car with other developers locally, and we can use this 3D model to show how a new project would look in the context of Gib. And as I'm sure you know, with the difficulties developers have with planning permission, the footprint of a building in its context is one of the most important things when developers are approaching these kind of projects. So it's a very important asset for us, this 3D model.
But that's one of the things, right? Because we've been, James, you've helped us bring the podcast to being filmed. There's also other things. Obviously, we've met many times, and you've opened a shop. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that as well.
Yeah, we actually have 2 shops open at the moment. So we have Oakberry Acai. It's in short, it's a health food shop. We serve acai, which previously was very difficult to get in Gibraltar. We've created the supply chain with an international franchise and launched that in Tucky's Lane. We then also have Candy Castle, which is our newest shop, opened 1 month ago. And that is essentially a pick and mix sweet shop. However, we've gone for a very thematic approach where it's themed like a castle. It's trying to bring in Gibraltar's heritage into a site where you go in and it's more than just a basic sweet shop, it's an experience. And from what we've seen with all of the people, all the visitors that have come to the shop, is that they get really happy and really excited because it's so thematic. We've got that going, and then we also have a vending machine business, which we've started very recently.
Wow.
So obviously a big contrast from the 3D stuff, but it is the foundations to support the 3D stuff, because the 3D business is innovative and it's much harder to push. You know, all of these tech companies in their beginnings, they're loss making. It takes a while for them to gain traction, to gain a customer base. So at this point, we're trying to have as many avenues to support the core, which is this 3D work, as possible.
So what you're doing really from a very early stage in the business is diversifying different income streams. Right?
Yeah.
James, if you don't mind me asking, probably, how old are you?
I'm 26 right now.
Okay, so you're 26, right? You've achieved so much that a lot of people maybe your age wouldn't have, or maybe hadn't have taken a different route. It seems to me, from maybe some of the listeners and watchers, would be that you tick all the boxes for being an entrepreneur, right? A young entrepreneur, and that's what we're discussing today. When did you feel that you wanted to go into business? When did you get that bug?
I've always had a strong passion for building things, and I feel like when you have that kind of interest, it naturally lends into business, because what business is in a nutshell is building things. You're building a user base, building customers, building products. It all goes in together. From a young age, Jared, who works extremely close with me now, we started a Minecraft server when we were young, and we would sell swords in this game. We would sell ranks. So even back then, when we were 12 years old, we saw that, you know, there's demand for certain things and people will give money for certain things. Okay. So that instilled a sort of business interests in me. And ever since then, I've always known it's the path I would take when I was older. Although I do think, as we'll go later into the discussion, you shouldn't just jump into it as well. You need experience, you need to learn from others. That's very important. But from a young age, I've always had a very strong passion.
So when you're saying young age, what, like 16, was it?
12,
like, wow,
12 younger.
So you already had the value of monetization and actually a bit
exactly,
of a transaction,
right? It was a very powerful experience to see how when someone wants something and you've created the demand for that thing, be it a sword in Minecraft, you know, an artificial thing that doesn't even exist, they'll be throwing money at you to get this prestige, this power. So we saw that from a young age, and I think it's been deeply instilled, and we're trying to put that ethos into everything we do now as well.
There's a lot of that, and I think there's a huge other discussion, probably another episode also, about the monetization of this virtual space, you know, in terms of
now more than ever,
Meta, selling brands, selling trainers, hoodies, all kind of stuff.
NFTs, which is essentially buying the right to an idea. I mean, it's and there's massive money behind all these things.
There's a lot of potential there. We're going to be meeting some other people, so we're going to be joined, James and I are going to be joined by one of the members of the GFSB and a couple of the young people presenting as well. So I'm sure that some of your advice is going to be invaluable to them. But you touched earlier on saying, don't start too soon, or maybe don't assume that would be. What did you mean?
I think this is a very important point nowadays, because on social media, there's many influencers who are pushing the build your own wealth, don't work for the big man. They're just, you know, funneling your efforts into their own pockets. And there is a small semblance of truth to that, as there is with everything. But in reality, it's not really the case. And if you just said, okay, I'm not going to work for a company, I'm just going to start my own business and make my own money and get rich, that will never work in reality, because if you're 18 and following that philosophy, you've never seen how a corporation works, how you need a finance department and HR and all of these different aspects that go into play, how to create an invoice, how to manage a sales flow.
Still learning, you know, I've got my own business and I'm still learning all of that as
exactly.
well. When did you learn that then? When did that come through? Because it sounded like from 12 you're already thinking, right, I can sell something virtual and get money.
This leads into the point I'm trying to say, which is, I feel like you should work for someone first. Even though it's not the most attractive option, I spent 2 years in a Vodafone graduate scheme after university. So that Vodafone is a massive corporation, over 100,000 employees worldwide. And working there, I realized how complex it is to run a behemoth of an organization such as that. And even though I barely learned 5% of what made it move, I learned enough to apply that to a small business like I have now, which is why I would say don't skip working for someone else. It's not you sacrificing your dreams, it's just you learning the important steps for you to enact your dreams professionally.
And to information gather, right? But again, I go back, James, I think there's much more of a disservice you might be doing yourself as well, because a lot of people will work for other people and still not take on board
of course,
those lessons. So do you think that you are born an entrepreneur or you learn entrepreneurial skills?
I think you learn entrepreneurial skills based on your environment when you're growing up. My dad had a business when I was younger, and I saw him doing all these things non-stop. I would write emails and follow his way of writing. So these things are brought into you. Not to say that if you haven't had that upbringing, but you want to be this kind of person, you can't become it. Of course you can. But if you are surrounded by that influence, you're definitely more likely to be pushed that way. You mentioned most people don't start businesses. Most people work for businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that. It leads to quite a happy lifestyle. But some people who are very motivated and ambitious will be very dissatisfied in that kind of environment. And me and everyone I work with in my team, we're all very young, aged 19 to 26, all of us, a very young team. We're all very motivated. We love putting the work in, creating things, making these videos. And for us, that kind of lifestyle would be probably quite dissatisfactory.
So yeah, I think this is it. We've got to kind of choose our different pathways. And I think, you were talking about how your dad has his business and you learned things from being in that environment. I think we're going to meet people later on during the discussion who are trying to get that environment in other young people who may not have that at home, right? So maybe they've started different brands here. So that's going to be a really interesting question, which I'm going to ask everyone. Are you a born entrepreneur, or how do you learn those skills? So
it's always interesting to hear the answer to that, because you see someone's upbringing, their outlook on the world in the answer. So I can't wait. I'm curious to see.
Sure. So yeah, stay tuned for the next bit where we're going to be talking to a member of the GFSB. So yeah, welcome back to the Gibraltar Business Podcast, which is coming to you from Bayside Comprehensive School as part of a Young Enterprise a scheme that they are running, and we are meeting two of the judges, right, who are going to be going around and speaking to some of the young people's.
Well, we're not judging today. We're dragons today, which is probably actually more scary for the teams than the actual judging, to be honest.
So, Michaela, Isabella, you're part of how many dragons are there?
I believe there's 8, isn't there?
There's around 8 of us.
Wow, 8. So, what's your role?
Well, we get to go and talk to each of the teams, find out exactly what they're doing, ask them lots of difficult questions, and then what we try to do is impart a little bit of our own knowledge based on our own backgrounds, see if we can help them, see if we can tease out some of the issues. And then obviously later the general public come in, so they really get scrutinised. So.
And you mentioned both different backgrounds. You mentioned you're a lawyer, right?
Yeah. From Hassans. Hassans is the main sponsor of Young Enterprise.
Okay, and what are you going to be looking for in particular when you go around?
Obviously, any legal issues which may arise, just to make them aware.
New clients,
of them.
right?
Yeah. Business licensing,
Start fundraising now.
And Michaela, you're with the GFSB, is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. So the GFSB is heavily invested in promoting business and entrepreneurship within Gibraltar, as you know, and we're hoping to find some good young talent here. And we've got a new membership with the GFSB as well for youngsters. So that's great. So if they can get involved and we can help them and support them, that's what we're all about.
And this is the first time you're doing it?
No, we both were fortunate enough to do it last year, so we're seasoned dragons.
And we're back, so it was a positive experience.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I really did love it. It's amazing to see the diversity of the projects and how invested the students are, isn't it? They're so passionate. And all the projects, in my day-to-day work, I'm a company manager, so I'm constantly dealing with different types of businesses. I'm sure you are as well. And you see exactly the same here, that passion, the drive, sometimes overlooking some of the practicalities, but obviously they're young, they've got that enthusiasm that we all want.
I have a question for you guys, because I actually did Young Enterprise 9 years ago now. It's been a while. And since then, I've heard that there's a trend, there's a certain kind of business idea that keeps arising. I'm not going to say what the one I've heard is, but would you say there's one in your experience that is a popular idea that the participants normally go for?
Based on my experience last year, I found them all to be incredibly different. So we had sort of one team that were looking to rent out car parking spaces, which was really novel idea, fantastic. We had another team that I think were making things from beeswax, weren't they? It was all natural products. We had another group that they created an app which was to do with sport and trying to get people together to share sporting events. If you were at a loose end and you wanted to play tennis with somebody, well, how do you find that person? So actually they were quite diverse, and there was some charitable type work as well, if I remember rightly. Wasn't there a team that were collecting?
I can't remember exactly what they were doing, but there was charitable initiative,
Yeah, sort of collecting, I think it was food, and somehow there was a donation. I don't really remember the mechanics of it, and I was quite confused, and I obviously am now, but at the time they explained it through really well, and I thought, wow, that's going to take off. So.
I want to know from your experience, was it, what is it, wellness? I'm trying to guess what would be something.
The trend that came up for many years in a row was a book based on a certain kind of societal issue, because year upon year that would win without fail. Like there was one on the environment, one on like children, one on like healthy eating, and no matter what the other idea was, the book always seemed to win. So I feel like everyone thought the book is a safe idea, and it created sort of a snowball effect. So I was wondering if there was still the book phenomenon now, but I wonder if that's changed. It sounds like it's much more tech-based now. The
main focus is always on Gibraltar. So when they produce a product which essentially provides a solution, I think that's where you really see the enthusiasm. Like, for example, the parking. Everybody knows in Gibraltar there's parking issues, and providing such a solution for me it was nice to see how they're really like trying to find solutions based on Gibraltar. Obviously, we always have the standard book, but even then, the book was it was nice to see because they were including disabilities, for example, as I think it was such a character with, like, for example, a hearing aid, and how that kind of disability isn't really recognized in schools, and how basically raising awareness about the disabilities to make it obviously mainstream and everyone to obviously increase awareness.
Much more inclusive.
Exactly.
It? So, So I expect, we might see that again this evening, but to be honest, I didn't really remember that one as much as I did the other ones, like the parking.
Sounds like they're much more, I guess, naturally showing the businesses move towards a whole tech focus. Everything seems much more tech focused. Back in our day, to create an app, when I did it, would have been financially extremely difficult. Whereas now I think it's much more accessible for people to actually make an app which people can sign up to and rent out parkings or whatever it is.
Well, I think at least 3 or 4 of the projects last year were website based.
Wow,
so you had different types of websites that were dealing with different things. It wasn't just something which was for a presentation. There was the mechanics behind the website as to how it actually functions. So we are seeing a lot more tech.
So we're looking for tech. We're looking for maybe a book and things that talk about issues of the day and solve Gibraltar problems, right? So
I did like the natural products though as well. The beeswax was excellent. So
there's always some sort of well-being product included, which is nice.
So good luck in your finding and speaking to young entrepreneurs. Thank you. So Sean Federico, thank you for joining us on the podcast. You are involved with Young Enterprise Gibraltar, right?
Yeah. I'm a director on the board of Young Enterprise Gibraltar, which is closely affiliated with Young Enterprise UK, who we license their various programs and materials from. And we run various programs in Gibraltar, starting with probably the most well-known one is the company program, which is aimed at A-level students, where students are able to set up a business with their peers and essentially run a business for the academic year. So they make their teams in September. And then we have a regional final, because Gibraltar is treated as a region of the UK, where they're competing against the other teams to show off essentially their journey throughout the year. It's not necessarily who makes the most profit, but what lessons have been learned, what their experience has been, how have they worked together, what problems have they encountered, how have they kind of gotten over these hurdles, and that's then judged by members from different companies who sponsor Young Enterprise Gibraltar. So they volunteer an employee of theirs to come for the day and help kind of grill the teams, watch their presentations, read their annual reports, everything really that you might expect a normal business to be doing.
Absolutely, all of those things I'm sure some of our watchers and listeners will know the perils or the stresses of business, I guess. But what I can say is that the enthusiasm out there is wild. There's a lot of energy in there.
Yeah.
How long has the scheme been running? Has it been like?
So I think this is now our 20th year of running the company program, and it's really grown from essentially having one team and being part of a region in the UK. So we used to be part of Yorkshire and Humber region. To, because back in 2012 we became our own region outright, and now we've got multiple teams. I think today we've got 10 teams represented today. We started off with 21, but being the launch, some teams get a bit of the jitters, and some tend to pull out in the last few days.
Sean, you mentioned like just before we started recording that you've gone through the scheme yourself, right? And so have you.
I have, yeah, I have.
So in terms of you've talked to some of the teams already.
Yeah.
What have you seen has changed since when you did it?
I mean, from my end, it seems the teams are larger, first of all. I don't know about back in your day, but I remember teams of maybe 5 or 6 back when I did it, and now what's the largest team you've got there?
I think there must be at least 10 to 12 in the team.
Yeah, they seem larger, and definitely, naturally, much more either tech focused directly, or tech is playing a big part even in the more physical products. Like for example, the Sensory Snuggle, who we just spoke to, although their product is a physical kind of blanket, they have a website, they have all these different aspects which they are also promoting. Those are the things I've noticed from my change. For you, it must be even more.
There's also a greater emphasis on services. And so I think today we've got a company with a student discount service. Subscriptions have featured in the past as well, and very focused on environmental products, or at least having an environmental angle to their product.
I've noticed that. I think also in the wellness space, I think there is a couple of teams looking at healthy habits, environmental with like switching lights off and on and stuff as well. So it does seem to reflect some of the challenges that we face as a community as well, right?
Yeah, I think the younger generations take it more to heart, that there is a role to play by businesses in being more environmentally conscious. And you can see that messaging throughout all the various teams in one form or another.
So you're following their journey. Today's the launch.
Yes, so today they're all kind of presenting their products to the market. Some of them may have already launched on their own ahead of this, but it's essentially giving them all a platform to launch their product, to get feedback from the dragons from various businesses that have volunteered their time, to give them constructive feedback, and also to do a bit of market research, because they might find here that their product, they were going one angle, but after getting some feedback, they might actually think it might be better to go a different way, or to rethink, or even to kind of go back to the drawing board.
I think it's really nerve-wracking when you're presenting an idea anyway, in whatever age you are, to be at that level and doing it, and then also knowing that what they're presenting today is not a finished idea.
Yeah,
no? It's like
some of these are prototypes. Some we've seen, especially a lot of the ones getting manufactured products tend to go to look at Chinese suppliers, and with the Chinese New Year, they have to get around that logistical, which I think is just around now. So they need to encompass all that into their planning. So you might find here that maybe they've got conceptual drawings, whereas others maybe have been a bit fast off the mark and actually have some products to sell.
So Sean, like, what drives you to be involved with Young Enterprise? Because it's voluntary, right? Like, why do you give up your time to be involved?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really valuable experience when you go through some of these programs like the company program particularly. It's one that I went through back in 2012, and I really learned a lot about myself and really gained new experiences that I wouldn't have traditionally gotten in a classroom. So I think that Young Enterprise is great at supplementing the academic curriculum and really allowing people to learn by doing in a kind of a nested, safe space where they can fail, and there's very little consequences. It's all about the journey and learning, and having gone through that, I think it's important to give back as well.
Yeah, I have a question. So for the groups, what is the most important aspect that they should focus on? Because obviously the first thing that comes to mind is revenue and profits. But obviously Young Enterprise has a very strong social aspect, all these different initiatives focusing on the environment, on health, on all these aspects. Is it obviously equally weighted, or are they told what they should focus on? What exactly
there
is
a judging criteria. And the biggest weighting is on the journey. So about showing what you've learned, how that came about, what problems came about, and how you got over those, but how you've done that as a team. So you find a lot of people's journeys in this program is they've had to maybe fire a friend, and at 17 years old, it's difficult. I mean, they've had to go out to other teams and find a specific skill set that maybe they didn't have. Maybe they needed someone to do marketing content, and they lacked those skills, and they couldn't afford to pay for that. So maybe they've gone and poached someone from another team. Getting through legal logistics. No? Sometimes they've got a great idea, but it's actually, there's a lot of legal work that needs to go behind that. So
the most important thing is how they portray all the challenges they faced and then how they overcame them. Is that really what dictates
that's what
the winner?
Whole product is, like the whole program is about.
Right.
So a group with more hardship could win in the face of a group that made crazy amount, higher revenue, for example.
Definitely. The financial aspect is not really considered. Obviously, they need to come up with a working model. We do look at scalability as well. Maybe they've done something in very small scale, but it's something that can be scaled to different countries or other markets. So that is partly taken into account as well. The enterprise of it is also a big idea.
Of course, so it's as you say, it's a holistic part of how they look over challenges and bring it all together and bring it home and still remain a team at the end, right? That's
definitely. Yeah. And that's what their annual report at the end of the year is. It's kind of a template that we give all teams, so it's all weighted. Everyone has the same starting point, and that's what we look at. Well, how did you come up with the idea to how did you get the end product out, and how did you run the business?
It's good, it's good. But before I don't have any more questions except for one, because you both went through this process. I want to know what your ideas were and what what was your team and what were you part of?
So our team was called Impulse, and it's a bit outdated now, but we
here just more about the idea and the process, right?
Yeah. So we came up with so it was like a silicon clip kind of where you could wind up your cable earphones.
Okay.
So thinking back to the old Apple,
which was a problem. It was a
they
real
used to get
life.
tangled.
Yeah.
So our idea was basically that you'd have this kind of widget where you could wind it, and then it had a layer of magnets on it, so it would hold the earbuds in place. Okay. And then you could use it for running, if you're going to put it in your bag. So basically, you could just unwind it.
Oh, cool. And yours, what was yours?
Our group focused we went for the eco-friendly aspect. That was the theme of the year. It was being eco-friendly. So we went for eco-friendly stationery, and at a face value, it wasn't that innovative of an idea, but what we tried to change it up is we also offered to all of our customers who bought our eco-friendly items. So for example, we had USB sticks made of recycled things like bamboo, environmentally friendly woods, this kind of stuff. But we also offered a certificate of kind of like an environmental certificate, which they could then frame to show that they're taking affirmative actions towards being eco-friendly. So although they were buying the product, they were also buying the the validation, the prestige of actually being part of this community. And from there, they'd be part of this database that showed they were taking the right actions. So although we had the product at a base, we put that on top. I think my group came second place, which we were gutted because we put a lot.
I think he knows it.
Yeah, and a book won in my year.
Right,
and a book won the year after as well.
Okay.
Books are quite popular.
Books are very popular.
We've heard the books are popular as well, but they're both really good ideas, and I think the idea of actually having a certificate or to show how your green credentials or some other way is something that businesses still do to this day. So
what I find very what recurs a lot is there's a lot of government involvement. I remember we had a lot of support from the government in terms of we presented them with our certificates and they expressed that they'd be supportive of it and they'd implement it in their workplaces, and I imagine that's still happening now, right? There's
on our social pages you'll see we're sharing a lot of the teams who have met with the Minister for Education, Minister for Environment, the Director of Education, and there is a lot of interaction with the government, and I mean we get a lot of support through the government doesn't sponsor Young Enterprise, but we get so much support through other means that they're always trying to kind of promote the programs that we're doing.
And also 20 years down the line, the program is going from success to success. It shows that support as well. No?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, Sean, I won't keep you more because I know you've got a very busy evening ahead. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
So welcome, Balance Being, to the Gibraltar Business Podcast. You're one of 10 teams who are launching things today, right? Tell me about Balance Being.
So we're dedicated to promoting healthy, happy and balanced lifestyles for children. And to do this, we're hoping to write a short collection of books tackling what we feel are major public health issues. These are nutrition, movement and screen time. And we're going to also work on developing a social conscience for children.
Okay, so there's a big challenges, right? Yeah, there's a big bar to raise.
Yeah.
How did you identify those as key issues? Do you feel those societally now are some of the key problems children are facing? How did you choose those? Because obviously there's many different society issues that you could have gone for. What was your inspiration for those?
Well, we met with Helen Carter, who's the Director of Public Health in Gibraltar, and she confirmed that these were very relevant issues in Gibraltar, but also worldwide, and that solidified our idea.
Really good approach to.
I agree, and there's spot on. Where did it come? What was the outcome then? So from those, that was the problem. How are you solving it?
Well, through our book, hopefully. And we're also hoping to do some movement classes and things like that to inspire children to change their habits.
But your main product is a book, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And is it like it's a number of different books, right? It's not just one.
It's a short collection.
Yeah.
Like she mentioned, healthy eating, reduction of screen time, and the importance of movement.
Mm-hmm.
And you have right now, it's a concept, no? So you're hoping to get these books published and commissioned, right?
We want to get them published locally, and hopefully we'll have that done soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, guys. I know you've got a few very busy weeks ahead, and enjoy the rest of the event today. Yeah, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck, guys. I'm sure you'll do very well.
Thank you.
So welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining us. Your team is called
Sensory Snuggle. Yep.
And tell us a bit more about your team.
Well, our product is basically we are doing this sensory lap blanket targeted at dementia patients and the neurodiverse community. Now, what our blanket is it's separated into 6 different sections, each different section with a different soothing sensation, as we like to prepare a different variety of sensations, as you might have one preference, I might have one preference, so we're trying to be as inclusive as we can. Now, each section of our blanket is a Gibraltar monument. Now, the reason that we did this is because we'd like to trigger memories for the dementia patients on how happy they were in Gibraltar, and we'd also like to educate, as we think it's really important to educate the youth of our generation on the history and culture of Gibraltar.
Yeah. And obviously we came up with this idea because we've just done our GCSEs and now entering A-level, even more stress. And I know I'm a very stressful person, and when I get stressed, I play with my hair, I play with my clothes, and I fidget, I'm always moving my hands. And everyone does this. We all know. We all get stressed. It's the normal thing. So we were like, why don't we make a tool to help with this? And that is how we came up with Sensory Snuggle.
So the name actually came from the fact that we're actually including 4 out of the 5 scents in our blanket. So we're actually using a soft lavender scent, as we asked the vague population, and obviously the most popular scent was lavender. We also didn't want to make it too strong, as it can become overstimulating for some people, but obviously touch would be one of the senses. Hearing, obviously the sound of the textures moving. For example, to represent the Mediterranean Sea, we'll be using orbis in a clear patch. To represent the rock, we'll be using these sequence pillows that you go up and down, one with color and one with black and white. Wow. And for the cable car, we're basically using a zip with a keychain of the cable car. So when you move it up and down, it's sort of like the cable car moving up and down. We'll also be using the Campion flower, which basically each petal will have a different sensation. And finally, we actually did a kids competition in Bishop Fitzgerald and St. Anne's School, where we spoke a bit about them to our product, and we said, does everybody here like to fidget? And the hands were raised. So that's why we also don't want to enclose our target audience too much. We want everybody, because everybody likes to fidget.
I think obviously everyone fidgets, and I'm a fidgeter for sure. It does seem like there's a lot of different things going on. Do you think that will change as the few weeks go on with the process?
Well, we are still thinking about it. We're quite into our design, but when it comes to manufacturing, we're still talking with our manufacturer.
We're still very open to different people's opinions, and we want to make sure that it's perfect for everybody.
It seems like your idea is extremely customized, which is obviously going to set you apart. So that's very interesting, but also gives you a lot of challenges, because I imagine finding a manufacturer that can give all these different sensors, using the sequins, using the balls, all these things, must be very difficult. How are you approaching that?
Well, we have a few manufacturers that we're speaking about. We've actually finished our prototype today, because we want to make sure that it's perfect. So we've currently been in contact with the Kids of Possibilities and a few members of the Dementia Society. We've basically been speaking about them, and they've been telling us what type of typical sensations they like to feel personally. And in terms of the manufacturer, we're open to ideas. We're currently doing Zoom calls, we're exchanging emails, and we're basically just trying to get it as accurately soothing for everyone as we can. So that's still in the works, and hopefully we should have it done by mid-April, more or less by then.
Wow, so you've got so many ideas and lots of plans and stuff, and it's great to see, and thank you for talking to us, and good luck with the rest of the programme.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, guys.
So thanks for joining us on the Gibraltar Business Podcast, Collectify.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit about Collectify?
So Collectify we aim to target everybody. Our aim is to educate the youth and adults, but also make it an enjoyable experience. So we want to make it fun. We're doing collection cards on Gibraltar's culture, on Gibraltar's influential figures, on Gibraltar's cultural places, anything like landmarks, anything that has to do with Gibraltar's culture. How it works is that you buy these packs, right? So these packs, it's 8 packs. They cost £2. We're aiming to do £2. These packs will have 8 cards. You open the pack, you get 8 cards. We have 120 cards, so you'll have to buy more packs, obviously. These cards will have a picture of the person, the name of the person. We've actually got them outside. We don't have them here, but and at the back of the card there is a QR code that you scan, and you can scan, and you'll get a whole PDF file on who that person is, what they do, and like what they've achieved and stuff. Because you might know who Fabian Picardo is, you might not actually know who he is or what he does or what he's achieved. And that's the aim of this. You might see the Moorish Castle every single day, you don't know the history of it. So the aim of it is to make it fun, because it's collecting and you're going around and getting them, but also educational.
Did you feel then that maybe people didn't know enough about culture or people?
Well, we did our market research and we did a survey, and the options were, would you like to learn about Gibraltar's culture? 50% said yes, 30% said maybe, and 20% said no. But that showed that 50% were interested in learning about the culture. And another thing I was going to add to the other question was that the packs are randomized. So, for example, if someone's interested in learning, like in Roy Cipollina, let's say they like football, they're forced, when they get a pack, if they want Roy Cipollina, they're forced to learn about the Moorish Castle, because they're randomized, so everything is mixed.
And they have to maybe keep buying them to try and get the right.
The fun thing is that if their friends collect it, they can trade it. So as well, we've added the schools So for example, a student from St. Joseph, if he has Bishop and a student from Bishop has St. Joseph, they can trade, like it's personal.
So the problem that you're targeting, which is obviously the lack of knowledge of important local figures and places, would you say that problem is becoming worse, or it's worse than people would expect at this time?
Right, so even within ourselves, I mean, I think we've learned each meeting that we'd go to talk to these people, because it was that we went and we'd sit down with these people to actually learn ourselves. And one of the times we were going to meet up with Sir Joshua Hassan's daughter, there was a person in our group who didn't know who Sir Joshua Hassan is. And this person said, "Ooh, that's the same name as where I live." And I said, "It's named after this person." So that's what the point of this is.
So there's an information gap, you'd say,
exactly,
right, on this stuff.
There definitely is, and we've learned a lot, definitely, like Stay Behind Cave, a lot of different places that we didn't know, people that maybe we didn't know, and a lot about these people, because, as I said, we know who they are, we've heard about them, don't know what they've done, what they've achieved, and the importance they have to our day-to-day lives and everything in general.
Another thing I'd like to mention is that around 90% of the people in our cards we've met up with, and we've learnt from them, like by meeting up with them. So that I think
You have a
that's
first-hand
good.
account, no?
Yeah.
Cool.
And the information is unique, I guess, right? Because you haven't just got it from
Yeah,
Wikipedia or something, you've funneled it yourself.
Yeah, they've given us some
Do you see, are you planning to measure how many people scan each card, or?
So it's not really, we're not that bothered by that. The point is that if you purchase these cards, you're learning. Because if you get that card, realistically, you're gonna see it, and at some point you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm interested in actually learning about this person." You'll see Fabian Picardo, or you'll see Keith Hasselbaldi, and you'll be like, "Oh, let's just read the back." Even if you're not, a 13-year-old will be interested. If not, their parents will, or their grandparents will, and they'll be like, have you seen these cards? And that's the aim.
That's cool. Well, listen, thanks for meeting us today, and good luck, and enjoy the weeks ahead as well.
Thank you
Cheers,
very
yeah.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So thank you and welcome to the show and joining us. Can you tell me a bit more about the Scenic Group?
The Scenic Group is our Young Enterprise group that focuses on creating an easy and happy way for families and specifically children to tour Gibraltar.
So we're producing an activity book which will have lots of different significant places in Gibraltar, like Europa Point, Moorish Castle, the different beaches, and each page has different activities based around the location, like connect the dots, crosswords, colouring pages. And we basically just really want children to be able to enjoy Gibraltar like we did when we were younger.
Do you think then that might be something that's happening less, or?
Yes, we did a bit of research before starting the book, and we found out that a lot more children are spending time indoors and not really like doing many active things outside of their house. So Gibraltar is a really nice place, obviously, and some people aren't able to appreciate the beauty of it. So we wanted children to be able to actually understand different things that are happening in Gib and different parts of Gib that are like important and cool to visit.
That's cool, and yeah, I agree with you. Gibraltar is a very cool place.
How will you encourage people to actually buy your book and actually follow the steps? So you mentioned you've got these kind of like tasks and puzzles they can complete. Walk us through what the approach is to actually get people to be more active and to explore all the beautiful places we have.
So not only do we have the different activities in the book, we're also having mini competitions. So all the pictures that are in the book were taken by us, and some of the ones that will be featured are going to be in a competition where people can recreate the pictures and submit them to us, and winners will get little prizes. So it's to give a bit of an incentive to get people to actually get out and enjoy it.
I really like that interactive element, and I think that's something for sure to build on, and I think could differentiate you as well. That's it. Good luck. Thank you, and I hope enjoy the next few weeks as well. I know it's a journey, and all the best.
Thank you.